All right, everyone. We are live. Welcome, everyone, to the ninth episode of KC Reacts. Well, more specifically, KC Reacts Live. Yeah, we added that extra word there just to distinguish us from another YouTube channel. Welcome. Of course, I'm Kevin Hammer.
I am Chris Barrett. Good to see everyone.
Absolutely. It's great to see everyone. And we definitely have a strong, powerful stream for you this evening. We're going to be focusing on law enforcement, specifically the war on law enforcement. And Chris, I know this is a topic that's near and dear to your heart. So it's one of the reasons I'm also excited to do this. Want to tell us a little bit about that?
Pretty much the first responder community in general is a group of people that I feel a lot of connection to. First of all, my dad was a Kansas City, Missouri police officer, and then he worked in private law enforcement. Or not private law enforcement, sorry, private security. Then he worked in private security after he was done with his stint in the KCPD. Uh, he also, uh, when he was doing security, decided to become a volunteer firefighter. And that really inspired me when I was younger. I ended up going ahead and I was a teenager and some friends of mine, we all got together and we joined a particular fire protection district's Explorer program. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's part of the Scouts of America, used to be Boy Scouts. And Anyway, but it instead of like traditional scouting, it's a kind of like a career building sort of program,
Hmm.
to get you familiar with something. So I got to go through full-blown firefighter training myself. Yeah, it's just this is very near and dear to my heart for sure.
That's awesome, Chris. And to be honest, that's part of why we do what we do. We focus on issues that are near and dear to our hearts and hope that they are near and dear to our audience's hearts as well, because that's really how we get the message out there. So, as it says, ladies and gentlemen, this stream we're going to be focused on to protect and serve and the war on police. But before we get to those clips, we do have to focus on our upcoming channel, basically our upcoming new channel debut. And here we go with that. So here we go. We are moving. We've been streaming to my personal channel for a while now, the issues from left to right, and we feel that it's time to move to a channel just for KC Reacts. And what better time to do it than when we air our 10th episode. So on Monday, April 28th, we will be airing live our 10th episode of KC Reacts Live on our new channel. So please go there and subscribe ASAP and hit that bell. Now, Chris, why don't you tell a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I don't want any of you guys to think that you're not going to be able to go back and watch our older episodes. We are going to be in the process of moving those over. We do have some kind of, I guess you could say, administrative tasks that we need to take care of. So that is why we will not be here next Monday.
Mhm.
We're going to be working over the next couple weeks on getting everything moved over and set up and ready to go for you all on the new KC Reacts Live. And really, all you need to do is go to youtube.com/@ KC Reacts Live, and you will get to us. There is a placeholder page up already right now, but unfortunately, there's no content on it. But over the next few coming days, as Kevin and I work through things, you will start seeing our older content on it. But as Kevin said, in a couple of weeks, you'll start seeing the new content on it as well.
Absolutely.
We're both very excited about this. And Kevin, should we tell them about the other platform that we might be going on to as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We're thinking of moving on over to Rumble.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. We'll
uh,
still be on YouTube. But Rumble will be another way to get to us. We kind of thought of it as maybe a good backup just because we do talk about some controversial stuff, of course, and YouTube sometimes is a little sensitive about that. So that way, just in case we do run into any problems on YouTube, we'll always have a backup via Rumble.
Yep. And one final thing before we get to our first clip, I will stop streaming to Facebook once we do that, once we have that other platform, only because Facebook now removes live streams after 30 days. So it does feel kind of, what is the point? We do have our KC Reacts Live Facebook page, though. So please feel free to look that up and like that, because we'll be posting all the links there to the clips and to the full streams. It's just we won't be live streaming to Facebook after, probably after tonight, to be honest. Well, once we have the Rumble set up, especially. With that, though, with that, we are going to jump into this because we have a number of powerful clips and to focus on where law enforcement is concerned, especially the war on law enforcement. Now, our first clip that we'll be focusing on actually is from August 2024 from Ferguson, Missouri, on the 10-year anniversary of Michael Brown's death. This is where we had an attack on an officer. Officer Travis Brown was attacked when a protest turned violent, which they so often do this day and age. And obviously, our few clips are from Missouri, so this is also close to Chris as well. With that, we are going to jump into our first clip regarding Officer Travis Brown.
No changes tonight in the condition of a Ferguson police officer. Officer Travis Brown was critically injured on Friday night during protests to mark 10 years since Michael Brown died. Fox 2's Kelly Hoskins has more.
The Ethical Society police member, Sergeant Stan Dooley, is still in shock after his good friend, Ferguson police officer Travis Brown, was seriously injured during protests 10 years after Mike Brown's death. Officer Brown suffered a brain injury outside the Ferguson Police Department Friday night.
I don't like for anything bad or tragic to happen to anyone. But, it really bothers me when it happens to, one of the people that really take pride in what they do and take pride in doing their job and really invest into the community.
Officer Brown joined the Ferguson Police Department back in January. He also served on the front lines of the protests in 2014 as a St. Louis County police officer.
I know we've been going through a change with law enforcement over the last 10 years, especially here in the St. Louis community. But Officer Brown, he's the type of officer that, really wants to make that change and is really invested in the community because he comes from the community. It's disheartening when, someone that's really invested tries to, help their community and something tragic like this happens.
Officers say they use patrol cars to block parts of Florissant Road so people taking part in the peaceful gathering could march safely. But when officers witnessed some protesters had broken and stolen a large portion of the fencing out in front of the Ferguson Police Department, officers went to make an arrest, and Officer Brown was injured. And 2 other officers suffered minor injuries. The St. Louis County Prosecutor's Office issued charges against 28-year-old Elijah Gant of East St. Louis. Officer Dooley is asking the community to keep Officer Brown lifted in prayer.
This is a hard one for the entire community, a hard pill for everyone to swallow. We are praying. We're trying to uplift the family. We're uplifting him. The staff at the hospital are doing a great job.
Reporting in Ferguson, Kelly Hoskins, Fox 2 News.
All right, now that clip was a bit longer than most of our clips, but I felt like it deserved that, especially because we really need to focus on the victim here and the fact that just to highlight this war on officers. Now, we do have footage from the protest that turned violent in which Travis Brown was injured, which we're going to play that right now.
Police say that officers were only deployed after some protesters began to shake and break the fence surrounding the police department. As officers moved in to apprehend one of those individuals, a man now identified as 28-year-old Elijah Gant can be seen rushing at Officer Travis Brown. Officer Brown suffered a severe brain injury that has left him hospitalized in critical condition. The St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office says Gant is facing charges for resisting arrest, first-degree property damage, and 2 charges of fourth-degree assault.
Now, here's the thing with all this, right? I mean, these protests, they increasingly turn violent. I mean, we saw months of, fiery but yet peaceful protests, of course, and
Yeah,
obviously
right.
a number of officers were injured in that. But this has become too much of the norm, hasn't it, Chris?
It has. First, the whole situation with Mike Brown, and just to distinguish, it is kind of weird that the officer has the exact same last name as the guy that all of this is over, which was Mike Brown's death. Regardless of whether you think that it was justifiable that he was shot and killed or not, let's put it this way. Mike Brown was not some upstanding citizen. Before he was shot and killed, he had if I remember correctly, he had allegedly, I'm going to be very careful here, he had allegedly assaulted someone himself. And this was just within like a matter of like maybe an hour before he was killed. Um, so it's kind of like the George Floyd thing, you know. Um, again, not exactly an upstanding citizen. And these people are losing their minds over this. And then on top of that, supposedly a lot of this stuff is supposed to have to do with race and all that type of stuff. But then we're seeing these people also going out and harming police officers no matter what their race are. I'm not saying, by the way, don't get me wrong, that it would have been better, it would have been okay if it was a white person.
Well, they have a
But
reason for that, Chris. They're
but
handling Uncle Tom's
yeah, but
in their mind.
well, I'm not going to get into that too
No,
much.
I know. I'm just saying their logic is that when they go after demographics, just like you and me as homosexual men, we're traitors. So that's how they justify going after
Right. And
people.
so, but the thing is like, I don't know. I mean, to me, the race thing is just kind of a non-starter for me, and I guess that's where I was going with that. That said, tonight is kind of like an interesting, yes, very near and dear to my heart, type of thing again, because a lot of these things are from Missouri. And guess what, guys? I lived in Overland, Missouri. If you look it up on the map, guess what city is right next to it? Ferguson. And so the Mike Brown situation happened 2 years after I left St. Louis. So St. Louis was still very much on my mind, that sort of thing. And the thing is I'm very familiar with Ferguson. It is a very high crime area. And to the greater point of this podcast, my deepest respect goes out to the police officers that have to work in Ferguson, Missouri. And even to this day, because I already know just from people that I still know that live in St. Louis, um, in the St. Louis area, I guess I should say. Ferguson hasn't really.
Yeah.
It's still a very dangerous place for police officers to work in. So that's just something to keep in mind. Regardless of how you feel about Mike Brown specifically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to cut off because
Oh,
Chris,
no, you're
you
okay. I
touch
mean,
on something.
I'm pretty much done. The only thing I
Yeah.
was going to say is, regardless of how you feel about Mike Brown, just understand that Ferguson is a dangerous place for police
Yeah.
officers to work in.
Yeah. And I mean, multiple places across the country are increasingly becoming dangerous for officers to work in. We'll get into that a little bit later, and the toll it takes, of course. Now, in this specific case, this was the 10-year anniversary of Michael Brown's death when this protest turned into a riot and Officer Travis Brown was injured. severely injured. Now, what's interesting is they put these individuals on a pedestal when when this happens, when individuals are killed by police. But then I'm curious because you say you want to honor these individuals, right? How is it honoring to then do violence like this, to become this mad mob that destroys property and hurts people, and even in some cases, as we saw during that summer of love, right, the fiery but mostly peaceful protest era, where people were actually killed by these mobs, by these peaceful protesters, and especially officers were really, that's when we saw the uptick in the targeting of officers, which with that we will move on to our next clip of, unfortunately, this is where an officer did not survive. And it goes into more detail about how we have seen this increase of violence towards police officers. And I know that this next one, Chris, is especially close to you because this one that we will be addressing took place actually even more closer to you, Independence, Missouri.
That's
So
correct.
yes. So this next clip is from February 2024 from Independence, Missouri, where Officer Cody Allen and court employee Drexel Mack was shot during a home eviction. So with that, we are going to jump into this next clip. And as I said, these clips are a bit longer, but that's just because we feel that we need to get the full context to you.
Yeah.
In the Kansas City suburb of Independence, Missouri, a procession of police officers escorted the body of one of their own to the medical examiner's office, the latest American police officer killed in the line of duty.
Our thoughts and prayers are with all of the families and this entire community that has been devastated.
The tragedy unfolded yesterday afternoon when a court employee tried to serve an eviction notice at this home. That's when police say someone inside opened fire, killing Drexel Mack, a civil process server in his early 40s. The suspect then opened fire on first responders, killing 35-year-old police officer Cody Allen, a father of two.
Officer Cody Allen served this community not once but twice. As an Independence police officer, he is a hero.
The suspect was taken into custody with minor injuries. Investigators have not said what led up to the shooting, but our Kansas City affiliate, KMBC, reports the property had delinquent taxes with more than $28,000 due yesterday. The incident similar to a recent shooting in Minnesota. Thousands gathered in the Minneapolis suburb of Burnsville Wednesday, paying their respects to two police officers and an EMS worker shot and killed while responding to a hostage situation on February 18th. The number of police officers shot on duty in the U.S. has hit a record high. 378 were shot last year. That's a 62% increase since 2018. Back in Missouri, the two other police officers who were shot are expected to survive. Police have not released any more details about the suspect.
All right, so I'm just gonna and then for the most part I'm gonna let you take this one, Chris, because I'm just gonna get to that statistic there. I want that on the screen. Shot while on duty. That increase of 60.
I'm sorry. I feel like such an idiot because I got all teared up over
Oh,
that.
Chris, absolutely not. You are not an idiot. So that is from 2018 to 2023. We saw a 62% increase of officers shot while on duty. That is insane. But Chris, since this especially was so close to home for you, I'm going to let you take this. I mean, what was that environment like when Officer Cody Allen and court employee Drexel Mack were shot and killed?
I mean, I think the thing that is like so sad about it is all they were doing was their job, you know? And I think Cody Allen, if I remember the details of it correctly, wasn't actually there initially. It was the process server, and he got shot. And then, of course, the police were called in, and then they shot Cody and killed him, and then injured a couple of other officers as well. Um, by the way, uh, Mad, shout out to Adam. He's our police chief. You saw him in that clip. I actually talked to him today. We had discussed possibly having him on the show. Unfortunately, he has to be at a city council meeting tonight, so he wasn't able to come on. But he's a great guy, and I know that he really cares about his officers and everything. And this really affected him. I in independence, I think the thing that you need to keep in mind is while it is a fairly large city in Missouri, it's a very close-knit community. I mean, and so when something like this happens, chances are it's not just the officer's family that's going to be affected. And God knows they deserve the most respect. But it's really going to be the whole community.
Hmm.
So, these are the people who are protecting us and defending us against, I don't know, for lack of a better term, idiots. you know,
Well,
and
I mean, evil in
so you're
many
hurting
cases.
a whole community when you do this sort of stuff.
Hmm.
And so because these officers are huge parts of our communities in America.
Absolutely. And many are just also from the communities as well. And so we definitely got to really, step back and start having more of this honest discussion, because the biggest concern is once you dehumanize any demographic, right? And this includes police officers. I mean, we've all heard ACAB, right? All cops are bastards. Once you
Right.
dehumanize any demographic, you can justify doing the most horrific things to them. And unfortunately, that is the path we ended up on when it comes to law enforcement. Before we go to the next clip, because we're going to get to the source of this war on law enforcement, war on police, which is obviously the politicians are really the main part of the source of this. Before we do that, Stacy said, "Sorry I'm late." And she also said, "Hey, Chris, it's always okay to show emotions as we experience them." So,
That's very nice. I appreciate that. It was I mean it was just such a emotional day at his funeral because his
yeah.
guys, I mean, this was like so close to me that his funeral procession actually took place right outside the street next to my house. So I mean, it was definitely close to home, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Now, now we're going to focus on a clip that highlights the source of the violence experienced by many officers like Travis Brown and Cody Allen, and even the court employee Drexel, because it's just absolutely insane that this is happening in our nation. With that, let's jump into it and let's take a look at all the politicians that contribute to this war on police that we are currently in the middle of.
So we've been talking about defunding the police. There's some issues that we ask police to do, like mental health issues or policing in schools and all the rest, that perhaps we can shuffle some of that money around.
Suck it up. Defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police.
Mayor Eric Garcetti saying, take some of the money from policing, about $150 million.
I applaud Eric Garcetti for doing what he's done.
Funding isn't necessarily as aggressive as a lot of folks paint it. School budgets get cut almost every year.
Not only do we need to disinvest in police, but we need to completely dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department.
So yes to some defunding.
We have to reallocate resources, so yes.
Would you echo calls from some Black Lives Matter activists to defund the police?
Well, I think now is the time that we need to actually do that work.
It is outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street.
Oh my goodness, it is out there. That's from Kamala Harris, our recent presidential candidate for the Democrats, right?
Oh my God.
She thinks it's insane reasoning to think that law enforcement will decrease crime. But this is how this woman and all these politicians think, which is insanity. And yes, this clip is from a longer 9-minute video. Obviously, we were not going to play it for 9 minutes on this stream, but I will, when I update the description, I will include a link to the full video just so you can observe all the insanity that is politicians promoting defund the police and ultimately the war on police that we have seen so many fall victim to. Chris, what do you have to say about these politicians?
Well, so you'll remember I was talking to Adam Dustman, the chief of police um, in of Independence, and I will say that at least there are some politicians in the state of Missouri that are doing some great things, according to him, what he was telling you about, that are going to really back up the police. But guess which politicians are the ones who are actually doing that? It ain't these guys. It ain't the Democrats. It's Republicans who are doing it. So, I mean, I guys, seriously, vote Republican if you care about this. I mean, I'm just gonna say that. Um, but seeing Ilhan Omar talk, I'm like, can Donald Trump eject her back to Somalia or wherever she came from? I mean, that would be nice. Uh, okay, that was probably very rude.
No. Well, I mean, to be honest, if and I'm sorry, if you are immigrating, if you are an immigrant to a country and you come at it as aggressive towards that country, as in you want to dismantle that country, if you want to impact the safety of that nation, the safety of its citizens, if you're looking to deteriorate that, to make the nation a more dangerous place, and you're an immigrant to a country, I think that nation, I'm not just talking about America, I think that nation has every right to send you packing. If one of your moves is to come to that nation and make it a more dangerous nation, then yeah,
Right.
that nation has a right to send you packing. And I'm going to reiterate, I'm not just saying that about America. I'm saying that about any nation on this planet. If an immigrant comes and tries to make it a more dangerous country, the nation has a right to send them packing.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I guess that's kind of what I was getting at. I was kind of being joking, but I'll be honest. It does make me mad that she's not a natural born citizen, and she's. It's quite clear that Omar hates this country. Why she ever came here, I'm not even sure, since she obviously hates it so much.
Well, remember,
Of
she was
course,
famous for saying that 9/11 was something happened to some people, right? This
right,
is
right. Yeah. And of course, we see the picture of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, up there. I mean, she's not one of our best and brightest in Congress. We saw Cori Bush earlier. Again, another throwback to where I'm from. She was a Missouri representative. It is amazing that someone like Cori Bush, who was a part of the squad, is actually from Missouri. You wouldn't expect that from Missouri, but we have
yeah.
our crazies too.
And all these individuals, Chris, they're rarely living in the environments, the violent environments that they're trying to remove the police from.
Oh,
You
no,
don't
no,
you
no.
don't see them living in them usually, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, and thank the Lord above that Kamala Harris, given what we just saw in that disgusting video, thank God she was not elected president. I mean, what an absolute danger to our law enforcement she would have been.
Oh,
You know?
absolutely. We would have had more blood in our streets than any time, because this woman was such a strong advocate for defunding the police. And she
Right.
tried to step back, walk back a little bit during her presidential campaign, but the proof is in the pudding. The video's out there, honey. It's what's going to happen,
Yeah.
And like I said, that's just about Kamala Harris. So I know some people will come on and try to bring up Trump, but no, address Kamala Harris's words. She was advocating for making this a much more dangerous country by impacting the state of our law enforcement in a negative fashion. And And when these politicians do this, Chris, because we're going to get to the next video, because we're about to go from Missouri, Chris's home, to New York, my home.
Right.
And we are going to highlight what was the fruit, to a degree, of these types of politicians. But it's actually kind of a, it's the snake eating its own tail bit. It's a circle, it's a cycle, because a lot of the politicians were once activists, right? Were once out there far leftist activists. But when they became politicians and promoted things like defund the police, they inspired and helped lifted voices of even violent protesters, violent activists who not only wanted to defund the police, they want to dismantle the police. And with that, we're going to get to an organization that is near me. There is an organization called All of Us. It is run by a woman named Jamaica Miles, who actually happens to be on the school board for the city as well, for the city of Schenectady, New York. So with that, we're going to jump into this. Now, I want you, as you watch this video, people, I want you to keep these things in mind, that the woman featured in this video is on the school board of her city, which means she is influencing youth, right, in school policy. And this is her mindset when it comes to police. Keep that in your mind as I play this clip. I beg of you to, and ask yourself, is this the type of person you think, regardless of political affiliation, that should be on a school board? Here we go. This is Jamaica Miles, co-founder of the organization All of Us, and member of the school board of the city of Schenectady.
Y'all see how many people are here? You ain't here, get here. We ain't left yet. You got time to get to Saratoga. You might be in Albany, you might be in Troy, you might be in Schenectady. You got time to get up here because we ain't going nowhere. We're going to be here for a minute. We're going to be here for a minute. We do shit right. We keep our people safe. Because we defunding the fucking police. We demilitarizing the police. We don't need no fucking police. We showed that shit in Troy last night. We don't need the police.
Now again, to reiterate, this woman, Jamaica Miles, not only is she the co-founder of that organization, All of Us, which promotes the abolition of police. They're not just defund the police. These are police, law enforcement abolitionists. So they want a society without law enforcement. So not only is Jamaica Miles the co-founder of that organization, she currently sits on the Schenectady City School Board, right? This Jamaica Miles does. And with that, because we're going to get into a discussion about this, we're going to go to the next video, because the next clip, I just want to dive right into it, features Jamaica Miles as well, but it also features a current city councilman for the city of Schenectady, Carl Williams, and he is sitting there nodding and supporting these police abolitionists from the organization All of Us, which again was founded by Jamaica Miles, current school board member for the city of Schenectady. So let's jump into that clip.
Because the only way to build trust is if policing will continue to exist. And again, I'll be authentic in saying I'm an abolitionist. But if policing and reform and transform is and transformation is what we're looking for as a first step, there should be no reason that they're scared to not meet that deadline. So they don't get defunded, when defunding the police is inherently the correct first step towards saving and changing lives. I mean, defunding the police is exactly what not just we are asking for, not just All of Us Community Action, not just, the other organizations in and around Schenectady and the capital region, but the entire nation and other nations in the world are asking of American police systems. So you're scared to be defunded, but saying you're committed to change and reform, but and that in and of itself is an issue. What are we reforming? How can you reform something that kills people?
All right, so to confirm, up there in the corner, the black turtleneck, that is Jamaica Miles. Again, co-founder of All of Us, school board member for the city of Schenectady. In the center top is Carl Williams. As you saw, he's nodding along. In the future, in another clip, which I don't have for this stream, but I do have it, he talks about how he supports this organization full-heartedly. And again, that is a sitting city councilman for the city of Schenectady on the stream with a bunch of law enforcement abolitionists. The young woman who was speaking, she is a protege of Jamaica Miles, and trust me, she is out there. We'll cover her in the future in some clips because she actually got in a lot of trouble locally. But with that, Chris, so clearly I'm showing you the insanity that's near me, right? This idea, as this young woman just said, a nation without law enforcement. Police abolitionists, right? Do you have these in Missouri currently? Because this group is still active here in this area. Do you currently have these, Chris? And what's your take on them? Are they this wild? Are they this insane?
Oh yeah, we have them. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, um, we didn't get specifically into exactly, the greater area that I live in. We discussed the fact that I live in Independence, Missouri, but it's a suburb of Kansas City. If you didn't pick up on that, um, uh, on that one clip that we watched, here's the thing, guys. Kansas City and St. Louis, as far as Missouri is concerned, are just as bad as far as the crazy leftists as any place in Colorado, California, New York. They're just as nuts. And thank God for the rest of the state that keeps Missouri sane. you know, but the very first thing that I just, and that came to my mind um, when I watched this before the show was, isn't anarchy great? Isn't that what we want? You know, I, I I mean, when has that ever worked? But hey,
So,
what does all of Western civilization know?
so
And
Chris, I've actually asked these people, by the way, I've straight up been face to face with them. I've had conversations, and I've asked them to show me an example of one society, even one that has thrived and gone the distance, lasted without any kind of law enforcement. Show me one society in history. Just give me one that has zero type of law enforcement and has thrived in any kind of healthy fashion. Just give me an
exactly.
example.
Then then the other thing, as far as the person that we're talking about specifically now, what was her name again? I can't remember, the one in the
Jamaica
black.
Miles.
Yeah, Jamaica. So another thing is too is she's on a school board and she's
Mm-hmm.
out there dropping f bombs and all this type of stuff, in a public setting. And if I remember correctly, weren't there some kids also
Oh,
in that video?
absolutely. There were kids in that video, and we
Yeah,
can, it's insane.
and
And we can actually watch that clip one more time because I really do want to put out there the face of this, not just here near me, but across America. If you don't mind, Chris, I
oh
figured,
no, no,
we
not
can
at
we can
all.
play that one more time. So once again, people, this is for those who may have checked out a bit. This is Jamaica Miles. This is Jamaica Miles, school board member. So she's school board member, and she's the co-founder of All of Us, a police abolitionist organization. Again, school board member.
Yeah.
Y'all see how many people are here? You ain't here, get here. We ain't left yet. You got time to get to Saratoga. You might be in Albany, you might be in Troy, you might be in Schenectady. You got time to get up here because we ain't going nowhere. We're going to be here for a minute. We're going to be here for a minute. We do shit right. We keep our people safe. Because we defunding the fucking police. We demilitarizing the police. We don't need no fucking police. We showed that shit in Troy last night. We don't need the police.
All right, once again, to reiterate, Jamaica Miles, not only the co-founder of All of Us, this anti-cop law enforcement abolitionist organization, but also a sitting member, currently sitting on the Schenectady City School Board.
Yeah. Okay. So just a couple little extra thoughts, if you don't mind, Kevin.
Yeah.
All right. So these types of people who are on the left are usually so completely concerned about school shootings and stuff like that. So who's going to show up at the next school shooting if these abolitionists got their way?
Therapists.
Counselors
Counselors.
and
That is actually what
therapists.
this organization
Oh
argues
no,
for,
I know
Chris.
that's what I know.
Yeah.
I know that's what these idiots want.
That is,
And yeah, I'm sure that you're going to go up and talk a school shooter out of while he's blowing the head off of some 5-year-old. You know, um, sure, sounds like a really realistic idea. And then the last thought that I have is for these police defunders and abolitionists, it would be so great. I don't know how you would do this, but it would be so great if we could come up with a law that if you believe in this and currently believe in it, then that means you'll get no police protection at all. So don't bother calling 911, because you can evidently handle everything on your own. So, that would be great to me.
Because, Chris, we've seen many examples of these defund the police types, right? Calling police once the shit hits the fan at a protest. They call the police themselves. It's absolute insanity. With that, though, we're going to go from focusing on the police abolitionists and defunders, the crowd that uses ACAB, all police, all cops are bastards, to examples of, thank goodness that police have body cams. One thing when it comes to law enforcement that I am a strong advocate for, Chris, is or body cams on police officers. The reason why is I feel, and not only that, we've seen that this protects both officers and the public. Because it's right there. If someone claims something has happened, we can go to that body cam footage and we can show what really happened, right? So with that, we're going to go to our next clip. Now, this clip is, once again, it's a body cam footage, and it's how body cam footage actually saved an officer from racism accusations. All right? So this individual, Vinny, hey, Vinny's in the chat. I had to say hi to him. He's like, woo! So you came in at a good time, Vinny. I know you're going to rewatch the entire stream. Thank you for that, by the way. But I think you're going to find these clips interesting. So once again, this next clip involves body cam footage that has saved, these next two clips, body cam footage that saved a police officer from accusations of racism. Now, to add more context to this, it was in what was this in? It was in 2018. Y'all might be aware, remember this. In 2018, Dawn Hilton-Williams was going through Brunswick County, Virginia, and she was pulled over by an officer, and she proceeded to, after the encounter with the officer, she proceeded to go live on Facebook and say that she was, that it was an act of, that it was racism towards her. And, well, let's just get to the clip, because it's honestly one of the most ridiculous things. And she ended up apologizing, if I recall correctly. But this is the insanity that we're dealing with, folks. And, well, that more accurately, our officers are dealing with.
I'm not gonna put my signature on that ticket. And he said, well, if you don't put the signature on this ticket, I'll pull you out of the car, and then I'll arrest you, and I'll impound the car.
I don't know her life history. What I worry about is this would inflame other situations where you see cops in other states being executed while eating lunch.
Startling accusations.
But I just was bullied by a racist cop who threatened to pull me out of a car.
Don Hilton-Williams behind the wheel and live on Facebook describing to her followers a traffic stop on 58 westbound in rural Brunswick County.
This is where we got lynched. This is where we got lynched. This is where even in today's day,
saying she feared for her life.
Pulling you out of the car doesn't seem like a big deal. But when you're African American, you get pulled out of the car, you get shot, or you get tased, or you get Sandra Bland.
An April 27th traffic stop. I'm shocked that Sheriff Brian Roberts learned about after receiving dozens of calls from concerned citizens.
I started getting calls from my citizens asking me what is going on, and they've seen the posting, and they're calling me concerning about, how would I allow this to happen?
Sheriff Roberts would download his deputy's body cam, an unedited, close to 9-minute video of a traffic stop on a sunny Friday afternoon. The traffic stop that went viral with close to 800 shares is next.
All right, which it is next. It wasn't in this clip. I couldn't find the second part of this clip, but I did find a short clip from that body cam footage. Now, once again, they showed 9 minutes, so they showed the full interaction. We just have a shorter clip for you. And trust me, this officer, there's no racism. But I want to touch before we go to that clip. This woman said, where we were lynched. What annoys me the most, one of the things that annoys me the most about the left is how they claim, how they have the audacity to lay claim to the suffering, the true suffering of others. The fact that you could try to lay claim to something as if it happened to you personally, is insane. It's absolutely insane. I don't care if it's in this instance with this woman and lynching, or, you see it in the gay community. You see it among women too, on the left, where they claim as if they are back before Susan B. Anthony, right? And they act as if they experienced that that. And I'm just, it's honestly, it's tiresome and it's sad, and it shows that they have really nothing to lean on other than reaching back in history. That's what they have, is to reach back in history, because they have no actual pain to claim for themselves. But with that, because Chris, I'll give you a chance to respond to all this. Let's just get to the footage of this officer that showed that no, he was not being racist.
Need you to sign right here?
I'm not going to sign that ticket.
Ma'am. Okay.
But I don't have to sign it.
So, ma'am.
But I appreciate it.
Hold on. All right. So, what you're signing here is a promise to either come to court or a promise to prepay. It's not an admission of guilt. It's only a promise to me that you're going to get it taken care of by either coming to court or prepaying it. If you refuse to sign the summons at this point, I'm going to have to get you outside of the police car, outside of this car. I'm going to place you under arrest and take you in front of a magistrate. I will get your vehicle towed and go from there. So, yes, ma'am, you do not have a choice. You have.
On the phone.
I don't care about that. You do not have. I don't care who's on the phone. I'm talking to you right now. You do not have a choice but to sign the summons. So once again, you're signing right there. So thank you. I knew you were going to sign it. Thank you very much. All right. Appreciate it very much. And you have a very safe day. Okay? Thank you.
All right. I love that. I love that, like, that little pettiness. Okay, thank you. At the end there. I love that. I love that little ad right in there. Now, Chris, I didn't see an attempt to lynch her. I know that's not the full 9 minutes, but Chris, did you see an attempt? Did you see any racism at all in that clip?
You know what I saw there with the actually, let me step back for a second, guys. First of all, if I was an officer, I would be more than happy to be wearing a body cam because of some of the idiots that you have to deal with every day. And that's what she is. She's an idiot, but here's how she's an idiot. She's obviously a perpetual victim, is what she is. And that kind of goes back to what you were saying beforehand. And you're right. We see it among all sorts of people. It really doesn't matter what your race is, what your sexual orientation is, or whatever. Basically, if you're someone who is left leaning, you are a perpetual victim. That is exactly what you always are. And so that's kind of what my takeaway is. Yeah, it's like good. It's great that he had body cam. So and to answer your question more specifically, no, obviously nothing was racist going on there. He was just dealing with, excuse my language, folks, an asshole. And he handled it very well and very professionally. He let her know what her options were. He let her know that she wasn't admitting guilt by signing it. She was just admitting that just agreeing that she would appear in court, or that, she would just go ahead and pay the fine. You know, That's not an admission of guilt. There was no reason for her to refuse to sign that. And I mean, hey, I've been pulled over for speeding before too, and every single officer that I've ever dealt with in those situations, since I've had a few speeding tickets, you know, has always explained, hey, when you sign this, you're not admitting guilt, and that's it. So it's like, what's the issue? What's
Yeah.
the issue? And if
And
you're an honest person, if you're an honest person, and this is the way I have been in every single situation, guess what I do? I just go ahead and pay the freaking ticket,
hmm
because I knew I was speeding. I knew I was doing the wrong thing. I was breaking the law. So, of course, I'm going to just take care of it and not, make a big fuss out of it. But,
exactly.
so if you're an honest person, you wouldn't be sitting there giving that poor officer a bunch of crap like she was.
Exactly. And and Chris, we're gonna get into the next segment of this stream, which we're gonna actually go to examples of violence against officers that were caught on camera, where the officers had to defend themselves, and it resulted in the death of the assailants. But before we get there, I do want to go to the comments quick because Vinny, he said he would not argue at a traffic stop. Right. Which at the end of the day, why do you think that is the place to argue? You're going to go to court, right? Collect all the
Exactly. That's what
information that you
that's what
need.
court is for.
Yeah. And
That's where you have the
have your
argument.
own camera, have your own desk cam, right? Have your own dashboard cam if you want it, right? That captures everything, and then bring it to court and, argue your case. But Vinny made me think of something, right? When I was younger, so one of the arguments I hear a lot, and I do hear this specifically focused on the Black community, and I've heard this, that white people don't know what it's like to have this police conversation with your children. White people don't know what that's like. Now, what I found interesting about that, and maybe it's, I don't know, maybe culturally where I was raised, is when I was about 12, 13 years old, I specifically remember being in the car with my mother, right? We got pulled over by an officer. And right after that interaction with that officer, I think the tail light was out or something. After that interaction with that officer, my mother, while driving, was talking to me, telling me this. She's like, if you are ever pulled over by an officer of the law, what you're going to do is you're going to pull over to the side. You're going to remain still. You're going to put your hands on the wheel. You're going to look ahead. And when the officer comes to the window, you say, good day, officer. May I, if you don't know what you were doing wrong, say, what was I doing wrong, sir or ma'am? And there's an etiquette to follow. Now, I'm white, all right? And my mother had this conversation with me when I was a young boy. Again, my mother told me, you pull over, keep your hands on the steering wheel unless told to, go grab for something. Say, good day, officer. May I ask why I was pulled over, and have a conversation, but don't create conflict. And once again, my mother taught me this, and I am very much a white man. And my mother taught me that when I was a child. So when people tell me that white people don't know what it's like to have a conversation about how to engage with law enforcement with your kids, I'm sorry, that's BS. I remember that conversation with my mother very well.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. It's obviously beyond race, and the only people that try to make a lot of this stuff about race are the constant victims. Um, I'm not going to go into every single detail about that and everything that I think that's kind of a little nutty about it. But I will say this: I had the exact same conversation with my father. Since he was a police officer, he made sure to tell me what to do uh, in any sort of interaction with a police officer. One, because he wanted me to be safe. That was his first concern, but he also wanted the officer to be safe as well, and there was, there's no reason to escalate the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Just cooperate. And chances are, again, it goes back to what I said. If you're an honest person, you probably know what you did wrong. Go ahead and deal with the situation. You know, use the courts for your fight if you think that you were wronged in some sort of way. I mean, because again, that's what the court is for. That officer isn't for you to sit there and have a bitch fest with him, or
Mhm.
her, So just go along with the flow. You'll probably end up being fine. You'll survive the situation. The officer will survive the situation and have your day in court if you think that
Mhm.
something went wrong. And that's all you need to do. It's
Absolutely.
so simple.
Well, it's so simple. We used to remember in this world that manners can go a long way, especially
Imagine
when it
that,
comes,
right?
especially when it comes to defusing a situation or preventing it from getting hostile. But with that, we are going to go on to some very hostile situations. We have two clips that I chose these two clips because they became basically they went viral. We have a situation, two clips with two females brandishing knives that unfortunately resulted in the officers having to shoot and kill these women. And it is heartbreaking to an extent because in these situations, in these two situations, we are dealing with individuals under mental stress, mental duress, but unfortunately, their choices that they made, even in that, did result in officers having to shoot them. And it's just, but we'll get to the clips. Like I said, you will recognize these clips. And I mean, if you feel different, if you're watching this stream and you feel that these clips that we're about to show you, that these situations could have been handled differently, please let us know. So the first clip is a woman attacks an officer with a knife. This was in September 2024. There was a welfare check for one Cindy Wilson in Reston, Virginia. And unfortunately, it did end with her death.
Fairfax County police officer was attacked before he shot and killed a woman in Reston. Kenneth Bolton's in the newsroom with the details on the case. Kenneth?
Jim, we must warn you, it's a stunning and disturbing encounter. Officer Peter Liu was responding to the home of 33-year-old Sydney Wilson last month. Her doctors had expressed concerns about her mental health, and then this happened. The woman initially opening the door, but then she slammed it in the officer's face. You can even see a slight smile there. This happened at her apartment on Sunrise Valley Drive. Then 10 minutes later, Wilson came out swinging, armed with a knife. The video shows Officer Liu retreating, backing down the hallway. When Wilson moves toward him, she swiped at the officer again with that knife before he fired 3 shots at her.
He did the things that we train him and expect him to do. If you're threatened like that, if you can tactically reposition yourself, do it. If you can use distance, use it. If you can seek cover and concealment, seek it. All those options just weren't available to him, and he was being simultaneously attacked.
And the officer was also bleeding from his forehead as he called for backup. Another officer performed CPR on Wilson before she was rushed to the hospital and later pronounced dead. This was the first officer-involved shooting in Fairfax County in over a year. Officer Liu is training for crisis intervention, and the chief says their team with a crisis intervention specialist who handles matters like this one was working on a different call at the time. But even if they were there, he believes the situation could have been much worse.
And now, mind you, at the end there, right? So this cops, this station, right? They actually have individuals to go on these mental health cards, right? These mental welfare checks. Now, I want to go back quick to the organization, All of Us, right? My local organization. They believe that we should only be sending mental health professionals, not law enforcement, no police, no armed police, just mental health professionals. Now, could you imagine how it would have gone if it was only a mental health professional that had knocked on this woman's door? She would have likely killed them. She would have been in prison. Like I said, I want to stress that my heart actually goes out because clearly this woman was not healthy, right?
No.
And my heart goes out to that, to her family. That it absolutely was a senseless loss. But at the end of the day, this officer had every right to defend his life. And
Sure.
of course, there are people who will say that, well, the officer can shoot for the leg, which they seem to forget that there's a main artery that goes through the leg that you bleed out there as well. But officers are taught to shoot for mass, to aim for mass, and that's for a good reason. Is because if you're shooting at a small target, a leg or a hand, I mean, you're putting your life and the lives of others in greater danger. Chris, what's your initial response to this?
Well, yeah, I mean, just to the point about the guns, I think that the thing that people forget that is that pistols, which is generally what officers are carrying to defend themselves, are not sniper rifles. So you're not gonna have the type of precision shots with those types of guns. Okay, there's that said. The thing is, though, I do want to stress that it is sad when anyone loses their life, and it was clear. I mean, you could see. That was my first reaction when I saw this video. It was clear that something was really off with this woman. That like really insane smile that she had, you know, uh, she definitely did not look well. So I mean, it's sad that this happened, but at the same time, there's a couple things going on here, folks. Hindsight is 2020. You can always look back at what the officer did and critique, well, he should have done this, he should have done that, whatever. Okay, yeah, you could play out 50 million different scenarios, but you need to put yourself in the position of that officer. Yes, while it is unfortunate that this obviously mentally ill woman lost her life, does that mean that she should have been able to kill him because she was mentally ill? I mean, because that is the alternative, folks. You know, and if you were in the position of that officer, regardless of the fact that that person is out of their right mind and is obviously in a sense a you know a victim as well to a certain degree of a mental health condition. Does if you were in the officer's position, does that mean that you're going to go ahead and just sacrifice your life because, well, this is a mentally ill person? No, of course you're not going to do that. You're going to defend yourself. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what this officer did. And he had every right to do that.
And Chris, like I said, we're focusing so much on mental health, which, by the way, people, we are going to get to a focus on the mental health of law enforcement. Those men and women who protect and serve. We're going to get there shortly. We just have one more clip, but like I said again, it is heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking that this encounter resulted in this woman's death. But again, the police officer was completely justified, and I've done it in my life too. Tried to, I see someone do something, maybe not necessarily this, but I see someone do something, I'm like, oh, I would have done it totally better and different if it was me. I love to think that way, but then I think about experiences I've had where I'm preparing for a speech that I'm going to give, something where no life is actually on the line in the moment, right? I'm about to give a speech, or even these streams where I'm like, I'm going to say this verbatim. I'm going to make this point. And then in the middle of it, when I have those eyes on me, or I see that we're live, right? My mind trips and I forget what I wanted to say, the point I wanted to make, or I don't make the point the way I wanted to make it. And I'm like, oh goodness. So if for me, right? If for me, the pressure of giving a speech, being in the middle of giving a speech, or the pressure of being online sometimes, right? If that can make me forget exactly what I want to do to lose track, I can only imagine if I was in that kind of situation. Someone is stabbing at me with a knife. They're not just holding a knife. I once had an experience where I had a group of kids follow me, and one of them had a knife, and they wanted my cell phone, right? But he was just holding the knife. He was holding it, right? But if it was actually if he was attempting to stab me, I don't know what my mind would do. I don't know exactly where it would go. I'd like to think I'd do this move. I'd do that move. I'd do all this. I'd suddenly become Superman. But I got to be realistic. I don't know where my mind would go.
Well, and the thing is, there, I think the news media loves to sensationalize this stuff. And, and, but, they don't focus on the probably thousands of encounters that probably happen every single day across this country where officers are dealing with mentally ill people and everyone survives the situation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And with that, we're going to move on to our next clip. This is another clip that involved a female brandishing a knife, and unfortunately, the encounter did end with her being shot and killed. Now, this one definitely brought up it was there was a lot of emotion following this one. There was even protests. I did not write down the year. Oh no, I did write down the year. So I want to give a description of this clip before I play it, and I want to give a warning that it is graphic, people. We're dealing with a graphic video. This video does show the shooting of a 16-year-old girl. So this is a clip where a 16-year-old girl with a knife is shot by an officer. In April of 2021, Michaela Bryant was shot in Columbus, Ohio, as she charged a woman with a knife, leaving the officer no choice but to shoot her. And while charging, it is reported that she shouted, "I'm gonna stab the fuck out of you, you bitch." Once again, yes, she's a 16-year-old girl, but as she was charging the woman, Michaela said, "I'm gonna stab the fuck out of you, you bitch." So just keep all the context in mind as we watch this clip. Once again, people, warning when it comes to this clip that this does involve the shooting of this young woman. All right. Now, again, I gave the one because obviously we are seeing, while it is from a distance and there is some blur, this is a situation where honestly there's a great deal of heartbreak to go around, because this 16-year-old who was shot and killed because she charged another woman with a knife and was going to stab her, and once again she was screaming, "I'm gonna stab the fuck out of you, you bitch." This young woman, the tragedy there is her and her sister were in the foster care system. They went through the foster care system in our country is messed up without question. And there was a situation involving their grandmother, if I recall correctly, and two older women, one of them who was once a foster sister of theirs, showing up in a conflict. And one of the part of this tragedy is that the 16-year-old, her sister, was the one that called the police when the conflict started. And she called the police because she was worried about her sister. And unfortunately, her sister made decisions that resulted in the officers having to shoot her to protect the life of another. And again, heartbreak all around. But this did result in protests. This did result in people saying all the things that we discussed earlier, that should have shot for the leg. I actually had a friend who tried to say that to me. She's a bigger girl. He could have shot for the leg. And I'm like, you're a healthcare professional. You know how that could be just as deadly. And having had family in law enforcement, that they're taught to shoot for mass, especially because if he even had shot her in the leg, she could have kept going with the adrenaline and that woman would have been dead. Chris, I'm going to throw it to you.
Yeah. Obviously it is sad because she was only 16 years old, but, but she, obviously a 16-year-old isn't an adult, but they are they are far enough developed that she made some really bad decisions, and what and I kind of feel at that age, I mean, again, not a full-blown adult, she's kind of responsible for some of those decisions, and but regardless of what you think about that, you might disagree with me on that. Let's put it this way. I don't see what the officer could have done differently. Because if I was in that situation and I see somebody else lunging at another person with a knife, I'm just going to have to assume, and I don't see how you could do anything different. I'm going to have to assume that there's something wrong there with that person. That person's the problem. They're the clear and present danger. So if I was an officer and I saw something like that happen, you know, would would I want to have to shoot a 16-year-old? Well, chances are he probably didn't know what her age was because it all happened so dang fast anyway. But, would I want to have to shoot a 16-year-old? Absolutely not. But, I mean, you're trying to just protect you're showing up on a situation. This happens within literally seconds, and you've got to make a snap decision on how you're
Hmm.
going to handle the situation. And I will say that I bet you anything that that poor officer, after he found out that he had to kill a 16-year-old girl, has to live with that for the rest of his life. And I bet you anything that he himself has gone through a lot of emotional
Yeah.
trauma over that.
Oh yeah.
And so, I mean, as much as it's sad that a 16-year-old lost her life, we've got this officer who is hopefully going to live a nice long life, but he's going to have to deal with this for the rest of his life. Imagine the trauma that he's dealing with.
I mean, every time a member of his family who happens to be 16 years old, he's gonna know that he once shot and killed someone that age, especially any 16-year-old girl in his life. He's gonna live with that. And and what's even worse is like there's gonna be so much worse because unfortunately it's not even like he was close to her, right? He couldn't have grabbed the knife. He doesn't have
No.
super speed. There was only one option to prevent her from killing this other woman. There was only one option. And as heartbreaking as it is, he made the right decision in this situation.
Well, my heart just really goes out to him because I couldn't imagine being in that situation, having to make that split decision on what to do. Here's why police officers in my mind are kind of like superhumans. I mean, obviously they're not, but they're definitely heroes. you know Most people, if they were put in that situation, I bet you anything would just freeze up and not do anything. I bet you the vast majority of people, that's what they'd do. That
Mhm.
man had to make a decision. That is
Absolutely.
amazing.
Absolutely. And it's a decision that, as you said, he's gonna have to live with for the rest of his life. Even if it was the right decision, even the right decision can weigh on you
Oh,
and
sure.
tear you apart. Even the right decision. And
Sure.
sometimes the right decisions are harder to live with than the wrong ones, at the end of the day. But we've started to focus on mental health here, and with that, we're going to continue this. We dealt with scenarios where clearly we had two individuals who, for whatever reason, were not in their right minds, and unfortunately were shot and killed by an officer because there was no other option. Now we're going to turn and we're going to focus on the mental health of police officers. This next clip is a little bit longer, but we feel that it warrants playing this longer clip. It's a little over 2 minutes because it really highlights the mental strain that officers are under, and how we do need more of a focus on the mental health of our law enforcement. So with that, we are going to bring up this next clip and then have a discussion about officers and mental health.
South Florida police officers opening up to Local 10 about the battle behind the badge, oftentimes struggling in silence, battling their own mental health while working to protect others.
Crime specialist Bridget Matter shows us how a local organization is giving the men and women in blue a place to turn for help.
The men and women in uniform protecting our communities every day may be suffering silently beyond the badge, some even turning to suicide as a last resort. It was a thought for J.C. Prolezzo, a now retired sergeant who worked at the Miami-Dade Police Department.
The thought of suicide was definitely in my mind because I had run out of options.
He became what he calls a functioning alcoholic, drinking himself to sleep every night for 3 years.
I was a first responder and a sergeant at that who was in control of everything. I tell you what to do and how to handle things, yet I couldn't stop putting a bottle to my lips.
I was chomping at the bit to get to this video today because
JC hosts a podcast focused on mental health among police officers. Earlier this year, BSO lost one of their own to suicide.
Upon arrival, officers found a marked Broward Sheriff's Office car and a BSO deputy laying right next to it.
That deputy shot himself in the chest. It was a devastating wake-up call for some dealing with stress at home and at work.
All right. So actually, that was a little bit shorter than I recall. But so here's what we're dealing with here, right? We are dealing with a profession, law enforcement, where we are sending men and women in some cities in America are war zones. I mean, the nickname for Chicago, for example, is Chirac, right? And it's not just, there's a comment there, this isn't just for police officers. Smartatan, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, Smartan.
I
just
know who
commented,
that is.
this isn't this. Oh, okay, yeah, I think I do too now. This isn't just for police. It's for any first responder.
Yeah.
Much gratitude what they have to experience, and it's because they really are going into these war zones, and they are experiencing, in some cases, when they unfortunately have to kill someone. If they lose one of their fellow officers, right? And especially in a very violent way, very violent fashion, these officers are dealing with PTSD. They're dealing with severe depression. They are dealing with so much emotion. And that's one of the reasons I actually very much do support a focus on the mental health of our law enforcement, and that we should be funding programs that are set up to help officers address everything that they go through. Chris, what's your input on this?
Sure. Okay. So obviously our focus here is definitely on law enforcement, but it does really go to, you're right, first responders altogether. So police officers, firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics. They are basically, I guess you could say, domestic warriors, so to speak. Are they being sent into a literal war zone? No. But they're dealing with a lot of the same type of trauma that you hear soldiers going through. And of course, we know about how there's high suicide rates and stuff like that among former military people. It's really the same. It's very similar, at least in my opinion. And I'll tell you what, Kevin, earlier in this podcast, I was saying that I was a firefighter explorer. Well, that inspired me to go on and seek paramedic training. So I actually went through that, and then I went through the clinical process and everything. Guess what that meant? Well, I rode along in Kansas City, Missouri. Kansas City, Missouri, as you know, is not some small city. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on here, you know. And anyway, um, when when I saw a child die, that affected me that's going to affect me for the rest of my life, you know. And I mean, I can't help but think that the reason that I have panic disorder and deal with depression and stuff like that is because that is in my mind all the time. Um, it'll never go away. So, um, I mean, that's why, by the way, I decided I could not handle that type of job. That's also why I have such mad respect for these people because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't live up to it. I just couldn't. But somehow or other, these people do. So we, as communities and stuff like that, need to be there for these people. We need to make sure that that there's programs like this, like what they're talking about in this news clip and everything, to make sure that we're supporting these people, because we rely on them so much, and we don't want them killing themselves. We don't want them drinking themselves to death or getting hooked on drugs or whatever the case may be. We want to support them as much as we possibly can. So anyway, that's my
Yeah.
little rant on that.
And like I said, there in this the reason why this also needs to be a focus is, while it's as much for the officers themselves going through these mental health issues, it's also for those around them. It's for the community. A mentally healthy officer is going to help protect a community in a better fashion. Is going to help create a safer community for everyone, including themselves. So, I fully support a focus on addressing the mental health issues that law enforcement and first responders across the board face. With that, we are going to move on to something that is very positive, because
Good.
there's so much focus. There is so much focus on negative around law enforcement. But there are amazing examples of law enforcement officers, of police officers, truthfully and full-heartedly giving back to their communities. Now, this clip is a little bit of the longer clip, if I recall correctly. I think I got the lengths confused with the last one. This clip is a little bit of the longer one, and the reason why is because it highlights just how much law enforcement officers, are capable of giving back and contributing to their communities, not just through what they do as police officers, but through what they do as human beings. And that is something. Sorry, I messed up the screen there. These officers giving back to their communities isn't just something worthy of acknowledging. It is something that is worthy of celebration. So with that, let's have a positive few minutes and let's focus on an officer who is giving back to his community.
Hello, I'm Officer Sheldon Thurgood with HPD and the founder of Thurgood Deeds.
You having no trouble in this shit? Please, shake his hand.
Thurgood Deeds is a non-profit organization that we cater to kids. After doing 4 years of working at the juvenile facility, I just thought about it's got to be something I can do to help these kids out, to give them love and caring about other people out in the city. And so that's when I formed Thurgood Deeds, to do more of outreach.
They love it, I love it, we love it.
All 75.
When I was little, I used to be cheer, and my coach, she actually came up to us, and she would ask us about volunteering and stuff like that. And I really wanted to do it. I love helping everybody.
It may make them feel happy that there's someone that cares for them.
After that, we just started, and we just been with Thurgood Deeds ever since.
We're here to
one good deed at a time.
So we do annually the Real Talk with Youth. We do Christmas with kids. We do Easter, Thanksgiving, which is awesome. We do backpack giveaways. They learn so much about homelessness. They learn so much about giving back. We also partner up with the Chauncey Glover Project, and their kids made like 85 bags of toiletries for us. So when we're not here, the adults are not around, they'll do the same thing in their own life.
I just feel that there's a change that needs to be done, and this is truly my change.
A lot of times, Clark? You know, we're doing movies, short films, and we always try to target the things that's going on, like bullying.
Hey, what's going on, Big Bob? Been looking for you. I know you ain't seen me following you up the street, huh? Hey, don't give that to me. Bro, you can't take my credit.
We did a short film on teen pregnancy. We did a short film on choices.
You the game changer. You the one that changed the game. You the one that's the leader. You got God on your side.
You think that that's gonna help? They gonna treat me stupid, bro. What you really want me to do?
Anything that's hurting our kids, we do a short film on, because I know it's easy to click a link to reach so many people, not just here, but anywhere in the world.
But a lot of times we get caught up in our environment.
It's amazing how so much talent they have.
You had that sitting there for 30 minutes planning on what we're gonna do.
I'm so proud of them.
You the one was in there dancing.
A man with a passion. A fire in his heart, fire in his eyes, and he knows what he wants.
I see him in and out of uniform. It's hard to tell whose clock he's on.
Man, it's good to see you back to look at y'all, man.
But I suspect he's on God's clock. The clock of doing right, that's the clock I believe in.
Where does cool air come from?
He really doesn't want to see someone hurt, and that really rubs off on us.
Well, you know, we're here to help. I think this is the blessing, chosen job for me. I always wanted to be a role model in somebody's life because I had a role model in my life. Nice meeting you, man. And so now I found my purpose in life, and it's been awesome. Now I just wake up overjoyed. Oh, what Cleveland at? And a lot of people be like, Sheldon, I need some of your energy, man. Where you get your happiness from? And this is where I get it from.
Absolutely amazing. This man, Officer Thurgood, right? He creates an organization. So this isn't just an officer doing one polite deed. This is a man who created an organization, right? And it's charity on top of charity. Back to school program, food drives, book bag drives, helping the elderly, getting youth out there to help the elderly, give back to the community. He's even creating pretty much after school special videos that we all remember when we were younger, right? He's creating them. Yes, they can be a bit corny. I think we all remember that. But he is just a level after level. This man, Officer Thurgood, is giving back to his community. So when face to face with the ACAB types, right? The all cops are bastards. The police abolitionists and defunders. I mean, it says something about their personality that they can look at a man like this and still think that he's harm, that he's bringing harm to a community, when all this man is bringing to his community is good, especially when it comes to the youth.
Mhm. I think the thing that that a lot of people may not think about is because officers are so much out among the community. They see, they have a special knowledge about the community that the average person probably does not know. And so they know where the problems are. They know what the needs of the community are because they do have that experience because they're out among the community so much. And so it doesn't really surprise me that someone like him saw a need. And, I'm sure it was all based on everything that he learned from being an officer. And he was like, okay, my time off or as a part of my job or however he's going about it, I see this need and I'm going to address it. So officers are not only protectors, I mean, that is their primary function to a certain degree, but they are a valuable resource to learn about what the community actually needs.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's as simple as that, really. So it doesn't surprise me that we see lots of officers around the country doing things like this. Because I mean, this one was a great example, and I loved it, and it was so cute seeing the kids and the old people getting
And it was
together.
worth the length of the clip, right?
Right, right,
I
right.
mean, it definitely was worth that
So
because
that was kind of cute, but I've seen lots of other things like this, that
yeah,
where officers are taking an even greater role, or a great, yeah, performing a greater role in their community beyond just their day-to-day job. So
yeah.
good for him. Good for him.
Absolutely good for him. And, this has been, I think, one of our most powerful streams in regards to, a focus on such an important issue in our culture. And that is law enforcement. Because, as I said earlier, to those who are defund, dismantle, and especially those who are abolish the police, show me that society. Show me that society. And this is me wrapping this up from my perspective. Um,
Right.
Show me that society. If you are watching this right now and you are anti law enforcement, I want you to show me the society in history that thrived, that had longevity, and had zero law enforcement. Show me that society. If you can show me that society, we can start having, I guess, a discussion about a world without law enforcement. But you need to show me at least, give me one example, because no one has ever been able to do that. And that's what I'm asking for to start that conversation, is just that one example. So with that, I'm going to throw it to you, Chris. What's your final thoughts on this?
Oh my goodness. So much after this, it was kind of an emotional
Mhm.
sort of podcast for me, Kevin. And but that's okay, because it is something that I care very deeply about. And anyway, I mean, I just think that our police officers, our paramedics, our firefighters, EMTs, all that type of stuff, these are all people that we really need to be taking care of. And and we should be thankful for them. We shouldn't be looking to abolish them or defund them or any of that type of stuff, Um, we should be looking at how we can improve their lives,
Mhm.
what they need, and try to provide what they need. You know, they're not our enemies. I have
Mhm.
never been treated badly by a police officer. And like I said, I mean, I especially when I was younger, I used to have a little bit of a lead foot. And so I probably have had, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 speeding tickets in my life. And anyway, but the thing is my dad, as a police officer, taught me how to, communicate with officers, and I never had a problem. No problem, and uh, really, if y- I'm just going to say this, guys. If you happen to be a Democrat, obviously I'm not, I'm a Republican, but if you happen to be a Democrat, then by all means, please support Democrats who support our law enforcement.
Mm.
Please do that because there are Democrats out there who do. Um,
Absolutely.
right. Um, but I'm going to kind of suggest, you might want to take a look at some of the things that Republicans are doing and make sure that, you're supporting those politicians too. Basically, I guess what I'm really getting at is support politicians who support the police. That's who you need to support. Period.
Yep. Support those law and order politicians. And you're right, there are still Democrats out there who have that. And keep in mind, people, I do want to stress that often when we're talking about Democrats, we're talking about the extreme activists and in general the politicians, because there are many people, just citizens, who are Democrat who don't support all this insanity
Oh
by
no.
any measure, right? They want safe communities, absolutely. Unfortunately, the politicians right now in their party don't seem to want that, or they sure as heck aren't fighting for it overall. And certainly the activists aren't. So, but with that, you know, this has been a great stream, Chris. I can't wait for our next one. And of course, on that note, everyone, as we wrap up this stream, we gotta once again mention that this is actually going to be the last stream on this channel. We are taking a break, everyone. We will not have a stream next Monday. We will be returning on Monday, April 21st. April 28th. Sorry, let me correct that. My mind went to next week. Let me correct that. So we will be returning on Monday, April 28th, and we will be returning only on our new YouTube channel, KC Reacts Live. So please, everyone, go and subscribe now. We don't have any content on it, but that is going to change over the next 2 weeks. And that's why we will not be returning until the 28th of April, is because we need to take some time to get our other YouTube channel set up. So please do us that favor. Go and subscribe. Hit that bell and share, because we will be celebrating our 10th episode on our new channel. Do you want to add anything to that, Chris?
The main thing is guys, anyone who's watching this, because I know that not everyone can watch it live, but at the very least, share this with your friends. Give them that link, youtube.com/@KCReactsLive. You know, or also share like this episode, because I think this was a really good episode. And share that with them and say, hey, this is a podcast that I like, and that'll help get the word out, and that'll also help us have that conversation that we want to have with a larger audience. So that's why we have the comments going on and stuff like that. So yeah, be sure to share.
Absolutely.
But that said, God bless everybody. God bless the police officers who are out there doing what they do. And I hope everyone has a wonderful night.
Absolutely. God bless everyone and have a great night.